Dear Esther, I have lost track of how long I have been here and how many visits I have made overall. Certainly the landmarks are now so familiar to me that I have to remind myself to actually see the forms and shapes in front of me. I could stumble blind across these rocks, the edges of these precipices, without fear of missing my step and plummeting down to sea. Besides, I have always considered that if one is to fall, it is critical to keep one's eyes firmly open.
Hello everyone, it's Disk here from Games, Brains and Headbanging Life, GBHBL.com, and today streaming Dear Esther, a walking simulator. Not quite sure why this game is so loved, but we shall see. Can't actually interact or do anything. That's no surprise, really. There's a bird. Thanks. So we'll zoom in. Every barn does a zoom in thing. Doesn't appear to be a run function. So I have played Dear Esther before. I found it to be an incredibly boring experience. I've gone back to it, maybe to try and finish it up.
Donnelly reported the legend of the hermit, a holy man who sought solitude in its most pure form. Allegedly, he rode here from the mainland in a boat without a bottom, so all the creatures of the sea could rise at night to converse with him. How disappointed he must have been with their chatter. Perhaps now, when all that haunts the ocean is the rubbish dumped from the tankers, he'd find more peace. They say he threw his arms wide in a valley on the south side, and the cliff opened up to provide him shelter. They say he died of fever 116 years later. The shepherds left gifts for him at the mouth of the cave, but Donnelly records they never claimed to have seen him. I have visited the cave and I have left my gifts, but like them, I appear to be an unworthy subject of his solitude.
Shortcut down. So if you don't know, I'm going to be doing the voiceovers achievement as well at the same time. Trigger all voiceover points. So when you see me stop and listening like that, these are voiceover points. You see me do 2 already. Doing it by chapter by chapter.
Those islands in the distance, I'm sure, are nothing more than relics of another time, sleeping giants, somnambulist gods laid down for a final dreaming. I wash the sand from my lips and grip my wrist ever more tightly. My shaking arms will not support my fading diaries.
Yeah, no running in Dear Esther, unfortunately. It's a slow, methodical walk. Bugger all going on. Shapes in the sand. Should be another voiceover back here.
I have I've found the ship's manifest, crumpled and waterlogged under a stash of paint cans. It tells me that along with this present cargo, there was a large quantity of antacid yogurt bound for the European market. It must have washed out to sea. God knows there are no longer gulls or goats here to eat it.
Fascinating. I don't have a particular problem with, walking simulators, but this one I find incredibly boring, pointless. That I cannot move any faster is really a source of frustration. To zoom in. Alright, we've gone up these stairs. Oh, we'll also be doing the urns chapter by chapter. Forgot about that one. Up we go. Going up.
Reading Donnelly by the weak afternoon sunlight. He landed on the south side of the island, followed the path to the bay and climbed the mount. He did not find the caves, and he did not chart the north side. I think this is why his understanding of the island is flawed, incomplete. He stood on the mount and only wondered momentarily how to descend. But then, he didn't have my reasons.
There's an achievement for falling to your death. So I'm going to
Come back.
There you go. Easy as that. 50 gamer score, die from falling off a cliff once. Easy. Nice easy place to do it at the very start of chapter 1.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
The reason why I'm stopping to let a lot of the talking happening is if you trigger another one short before that one is finished, it will overwrite it. You kind of got to let the talking finish up. Very linear path, just follow it along.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds. There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter and verse to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with superimposed significance, that they could actually walk the Bible and inhabit its contradictions?
Fascinating. This is a game that does divide the writers on GBHBL.com. One of our writers really enjoyed it. Gave it a 7 out of 10. Of course, everyone's opinion is different. I think this is barely a game.
Dear Esther.
Dear Esther.
I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
I think I'm heading to that cave. It's not the actual route, but it should be a voiceover. That's where I want to go. But there should be a voiceover in here, which, other than the linear path ones, will be the last of chapter 1.
I threw my arms wide and the cliff opened out before me, making this rough home. I transferred my belongings from the bothy on the mount and tried to live here instead. It was cold at night and the sea lapped at the entrance at high tide. To climb the peak, I must first venture even deeper into the veins of the island, where the signals are blocked altogether. Only then will I understand them, when I stand on the summit and they flow into me, uncorrupted.
Okay, let's finish talking, move on. So we've got no idea when the next one will trigger, so it's always worth waiting it out. Just let him finish his patter. Should be coming up to the location of the first urn as well soon.
I've become convinced I am not alone here, even though I am equally sure it is simply a delusion brought upon by circumstance. I do not, for instance, remember where I found the candles, or why I took it upon myself to light such a strange pathway. Perhaps it is only for those who are bound to follow.
Right, see those stone rocks are. This is where you'll find the first urn of 4. Yes. Very important, wait until you see the ashes blow away before moving on. That guarantees it. And then crack on. It's hard to muster up too much energy for Dear Esther. There we go. That's chapter 1 done. So we're going to carry on with chapter 2.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my ordnance survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Okay, so that's the linear voiceover. Those ones can't miss a part of the path. I'm going to be showing you where the not so linear ones are. See all the tankers down there? I'm going to follow this path. unfortunately this one's a bit off the beaten track.
An imagined answer phone message. The tires are flat, the wheel spins loosely, and the brake fluid has run like ink over this map, staining the landmarks and rendering the coastline mute, compromised. Where you saw galaxies, I saw only bruises cut into the cliff by my lack of sobriety.
That's it. You reach a dead end. You've got that one. Right, now we need to get down to that beach. So it's a long walk back, unfortunately. Down to the beach. On we go. Oh, he's so slow. That's blocking me. Mighty big crash. To the shipping container. Left. Follow this path to the X.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
There we go. Simple as that. We continue on. Walking.
I had kidney stones and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
Just another linear one. Oh, I think we're supposed to go up that path. Fence in the way. Or not. Actually, I think we might find a secret, a hidden voice over here. Yeah, this is the pit.
When I first looked into the shaft, I swear I felt the stones in my stomach shift in recognition.
Just get close to the massive pit and you'll get that one. course, all the walking around you'll do, you
begun
get
to
the Man of the
climb,
Rocks achievements, which
away
is
from the
walk
sea and
5,000
towards the
steps.
centre. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore.
Now we stop talking, we'll just continue up the path. Heading towards that house. Should be coming to the end of chapter 2 soon. And it's just chapter 3 and 4.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him, either.
It's so fucking boring, the shit he talks about. I have no idea why people like this game. It's not even a game, it's barely a game. It's the epitome of a walking simulator. Not even visually stunning or anything. I mean, the best it's going for it is music.
My heart is landfill. These false dawns waking into the still never light. I sweat for you in the small hours and wrap my blankets into a mass. I have always heard the waves break on these lost shores, always the gulls forgotten. I can lift this bottle to my ear, and all there ever is for me is this Hebridean music.
So you've got to be careful about moving too far on when he hasn't finished talking, as I said earlier on. If you hit a new speech, you'll overwrite the last and may not count towards the achievement.
In a footnote, the editor comments that at this point, Donnelly was going insane as syphilis tore through his system like a drunk driver. He's not to be trusted. Many of his claims are unsubstantiated, and although he does paint a colourful picture, much of what he says may have been derived directly from his fever. But I've been here, and I know, as Donnelly did, that this place is always half imagined. Even the rocks and caves will shimmer and blur with the right eyes.
Make our way down this path. I think that cave over there that I was just zooming in there is where this chapter comes to a close.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. His fingernails were raw and bitten to the quick. They found the phosphorescent moss that grows in the caves deep under the nails. Whatever he'd been doing under the island when his strength began to fail is lost. He'd struggled halfway up the cliff again, perhaps in a delirium, perhaps trying to reach the Bothy's fire before curling into a stone and expiring.
Manders do can talk, he really can. I said these ones that pop up like that, they're just the linear ones, they're along the path, you can't miss them. There's no real point pointing them out.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drawing the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the Bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Right, into the caves I go. Is chapter 2 going to end? I'm sure chapter 2 ends in here. Down there. There we go. Zoom off down there.
From here, this last time, I have understood there is no turning back. The torch is failing along with my resolve. And hear the singing of the sea creatures from the passages above me, and they are promising the return of the gulls.
What? Right. Didn't have control, now I still have control. Right, it shouldn't here, everything's linear. There's nothing off the beaten path. Not that there is. So just make your way through chapter 3, really. Dang it, my apologies, I just realised I forgot to collect the urn in chapter 2. So we'll be getting the urns then. I'll try and show you where the urns are for this chapter though.
There is no other direction, no other exit from this motorway. Speeding past this junction, I saw you waiting at the roadside, a one last drink in your trembled hands.
A bit prettier in here at least. Where did I just come from? Come down? Come down, didn't I? Yeah. So it's just here. No narration for entering here, I'm surprised. be a little confusing trying to find path. Oh, have I missed it? Came that way. Trying to find like a groove in the rock or something I may have to go through. Doesn't appear to be in here. It's a bit confusing. That's because I went the wrong way. This is the right way. I'm going in. Up we go. See you up to screen. It's kind of pretty looking. Very, very quiet. Hasn't spoken in quite a while. It's a surprise. He's normally so chatty.
I'm traversing my own death throes. The infection in my leg is an oil rig that dredges black muck up from deep inside my bones. I swallow fistfuls of diazepam and paracetamol to stay conscious. The pain flows through me like an underground sea.
That's your path. We're going for the third urn. There you go, right here.
This is a drowned man's face, reflected in the moonlit waters. It can only be a dead shepherd who has come to drunk drive you home.
Oop, I fell in. How do I get out? That's it, up we get. God, I made hard work with that. So yeah, very linear path, as the whole game effectively is. Just keep walking forward. Not a lot is happening in Dear Esther. Okay, a little bit different now. Motorway. Small gurney. Up towards that light. I guess that's my exit. He's really dragging his heels. Chapter 3 done. Last chapter, chapter 4.
I sat here and watched two jets carve parallel white lines into the sky. They charted their course, and I followed them for 21 minutes until they turned off near Sanford and were lost. If I were a gull, I would abandon my nest and join them. I would starve my brain of oxygen and suffer delusions of transcendence. I would tear the bottom from my boat and sail across the motorways until I reached this island once again.
Please stop talking yet again.
We shall begin to assemble our own version of the North Shore. We will scrawl in dead languages and electrical diagrams and hide them away for future theologians to muse and mumble over. We will send a letter to Esther Donnelly and demand her answer. We will mix the paint with ashes and tarmac and the glow from our infections. We will paint a moon over the Sanford Junction and blue lights falling like stars along the hard shoulder.
Is. That would be the fourth and final urn you would need. Row. Keep following the candles, really.
Paul, by the roadside, by the exit for Damascus, all ticking and cooled, all feathers and remorse, all of these signals routed like traffic through the circuit diagrams of our guts, those badly written boats torn bottom over ashore.
From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic. I'd watched all of you sink.
So distracted by the boringness of Dear Esther.
I will drag my leg behind me. I will drag it like a crumpled hatchback, tires blown and sparking across the dimming lights of my vision. I'm running out of painkillers and am following the flicker of the moon home. When Paul keeled over dead on the road to Damascus, they restarted his heart with the jump leads from a crumpled hatchback. It took 21 attempts to convince it to wake up.
Good news is, near the home stretch.
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. when this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together. If only Donnelly had experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
Jesus. Right, 7 minutes left until I hit an hour of this stream. Wonder if I'm going to finish it before. That'll make the game less than an hour long, because I've been stopping and starting and letting him talk. But at least all the voiceovers are being done, hopefully. Oh, it's really slow now. It is on a slope. Come on.
The stones in my stomach will weigh me down and ensure my descent is true and straight. I will break through the fog of these godforsaken pills and achieve clarity. All my functions are clogged, all my veins are choked. If my leg doesn't rot off before I reach the summit, it will be a miracle. There are 21 connections in the circuit diagram of the anti-lock brakes. There are 21 species of gull inhabiting these islands. It is 21 miles between the Sandford Junction and the turn-off for home. All these things cannot, will not be a coincidence.
The ascent. What should be the end of this extremely painful experience?
A gull perched on a spent bonnet, sideways, whilst the sirens fell through the middle distance and the metal moaned in grief about us. I'm about this night in walking, old bread and gull bones, old Donnelly at the bar gripping his drink, old Esther walking with our children, old Paul as ever, old Paul. He shakes and he shivers and he turns off his lights alone.
I think there might be one more voiceover, but it'll be on the it's all on the linear path.
I am the Ariel. In my passing, I will send news to each and every star.
If you follow this exactly as I've done, you should have just unlocked the achievement for all the voiceover points right there. Job done. Game over.
Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an Ariel, a beacon, that they will not forget you. We have always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent. Come back.
So that's Dear Esther. Takes about an hour to complete. Especially if you're looking for all the voiceover points. Not that there's any really off the beaten path. I think the game's rubbish. But thank you for watching. At least you got to see all the voiceover points. Alright. Been the disc from GBHBL.com. Cheers.